state-of-the-art technologies, innovative business strategies, behind the scenes, insights from cutting-edge users around the globe on World Business Review.
Welcome to World Business Review. I'm Norman Schwarzkopf. When businesses look to expand or merge, they often require the assistance of experienced financial advisors. Joining us for this discussion is Rick Northrup, founder and manager partner of Portico Capital Securities. Welcome, Rick.
Delighted to be here, General. Thank you.
Also joining us is Circe Dryden, Portico Capital's managing director and group head of risk management. Welcome, Circe.
Thank you.
And Jordan Goodman, our in-studio correspondent, is also here for this discussion. You're always welcome, Jordan.
Great to be with you, General. Rick, let's start with you. I understand that Portico Capital has a unique approach to investment banking. Tell me about that a little bit.
We do, Jordan. We're focused exclusively on working with information and business services companies, and we provide two types of services for them. One is merger and acquisition related advice, so companies who want to buy or sell companies come to us for that kind of service, and also companies that want to raise capital. We work with companies that are both private and public, and also companies that are both domestic and international.
Rick, tell us more about Portico Capital and what you offer to solve your clients' needs.
Certainly. General, we focus, again, on companies that may want to come to us and say, I'm ready to sell my business. I'm in a position where I'd like to raise growth capital. That's what we do. We help those clients because they know that we know that industry, information and business services, and that we know the acquirers and the investors in that segment as well.
I understand that you have a particular focus on the risk management and security space.
We do. It's underneath the umbrella of information and business services. We look at companies in outsourcing, companies that may provide healthcare information services, payments processing, transaction processing, and also companies that are in marketing information services. But yes, we have a specific focus as well on companies in the risk management area.
Rick, tell us more about your risk management sector focus. Why have you chosen to focus on this sector?
We've found that investors and acquirers are really starting to gain interest in businesses related to risk. And in fact, I want to introduce my colleague, Circe Dryden, who's with us today. Circe is a managing director at Portico and focuses and runs our practice in risk management. Circe also, you may be interested, is a member of BENS, which is Business Executives for National Security, and also member of CENSA, which is the Council for Emerging National Affairs, based, I believe, in Washington, D.C. Circe?
Yes.
That's terrific.
Thank you.
Let's just talk about the risks that are involved here. Are the risks that you're dealing with typically about individuals or businesses? What kind of risks are your clients involved with usually?
In fact, and thank you for asking, both. Risk management is all around making informed, risk-relevant decisions in a timely fashion. And so for individuals, that means what is a credit profile around an individual? Is there employment risk attached to this individual? Does this individual have other problems that may make them a challenge for whatever reason? For businesses, it is around compliance risk, around audit risk, and around reporting risk. And for governments, there are, of course, analogs to that in evaluating potential money launderers, drug traffickers, whatever it may be. And so there are companies that address each one of those, and in fact, there are many companies that address all three.
That's very interesting. Can you give us an example of one of your clients?
There's a company for which we recently raised capital, a firm called WorldCheck, which is London-based. WorldCheck is a database company that has a proprietary data set of heightened risk individuals and entities. So these are terrorists, narco-traffickers, drug runners, politically exposed individuals. Why is this information and data important? Commercial entities are prohibited from conducting transactions with people on this database. And in addition, banks have particular regulations around how they deal with those groups as well. Governments have plenty of uses for this data, as one might imagine, as well.
So what did Portico actually do to help WorldCheck?
The principles of WorldCheck, it's two individuals who had founded this business, sought to take the company really to the next phase of its growth cycle. And so they engaged us to help them raise growth capital. Ultimately, a firm out of Boston, Spectrum Equity, made a significant investment into the company.
Rick, are these typical of the kind of services you provide to your clients?
You know, it is reasonably typical. We'll provide services, whether it be on the merger and acquisition side or sale of a business side, or capital raising, really from A to Z. We'll help companies articulate their business plan. We'll help them think about who would be the right kind of investor, who would be the right kind of acquirer. We introduce them to those players, and then we help them all the way through the process of negotiating the final agreement with those particular parties. The
M&A and capital markets today are obviously very active. Which side of your business is the most robust?
It's a good question. General, I'd say both of them are pretty active right now. Merger and acquisition sector is probably a little bit more active, but they're both pretty active at this particular time. There are investors and there are acquirers who have a keen interest in both sectors.
Seriously, managing risk and national security have been a big part of my life, obviously. So this is a particular interest to me. Within the risk management arena, who are some of the larger participants?
Well, it really depends on what segment you are thinking about within risk management. Marsh McLennan, MMC, Kroll is one of the world's large and great risk consultancies. Dun & Bradstreet, D&B, is a leader in the business information and business risk space. On the more consumer side, you have the traditional credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. And then there are companies like ChoicePoint or Reed Elsevier, LexisNexis that combine public information with private information to render some sort of a risk judgment. Then there are companies that are in the pure scoring area. So Fair Isaac, for example, has been scoring consumer credit for a long time. SAS is also a player in that area, as is RiskMetrics. Many of those companies, although not all, have been clients of ours at one point or another. But hopefully that gives you some flavor that this is both a broad and diverse set of companies.
Indeed.
Rick, what are the key criteria you look for in evaluating emerging growth companies in this area?
I'd say number one would be the management team. You can't replace an A team on the management side, so that's critical to this kind of a business. And then everything else flows from there. Another thing would certainly be the business plan, and in particular, differentiated products or services, whether it be in risk management or other information and business services. A great deep client base. That is an endorsement for a company's services or products. And then lastly, a sustainable business plan. I would say probably about 90% of our clients are in recurring revenue businesses where the revenue continues every particular year with their clients. We deal with some on the software side, but I'd say sustainability of the business plan and the financial plan is important as well.
And what are your thoughts on this, Cersei?
In my view, the companies that will be the most successful are those that really deliver a clear and demonstrable ROI, or return on investment. In the risk management space, that means enabling a company's clients to shift risk, mitigate risk, or eliminate risk. Sometimes do a combination of all three. Those firms that are successful in delivering that value proposition will be the ultimate winners.
Rick, what's the most important thing that viewers should take away from this conversation?
Well, if I may, I'd say there are probably three things. One would be that this is a very robust market right now. In my 25 years in the business, this is about as robust a market as we've seen, whether it be on the capital raising side or on the merger and acquisition side. Secondly, I'd say that we're in a position where we've got the most active acquirers that we've seen and the most active investors as well. And thirdly would be just a conclusion of all of those, which is really that there is not a better time for companies in this space to consider something, whether raising capital for growth or potentially selling or creating something that creates some liquidity for those principles.
Rick, thank you very much for being on the program today.
And thank you.
A very, very important area, very, very, very interesting, and very, very important that you have somebody who knows what they're talking about when they're talking to you about it. So.
Appreciate it.
And Cersei, thank you very much for being here for the same reason.
Thank you very much, General.
And Jordan, thank you for being here. You always add a lot to the program.
Thanks so much, General. It's always great to be with you.
And thank you for watching. Until next time, for World Business Review, I'm Norman Schwarzkopf.